Hey, everybody, welcome to the Hollow Bone with Phoenix. If you're new to this, being the hollow bone means being the conduit or the channel for source through which you can receive healing messages or even miracles. So each week on the show, you have a chance to hear live channelings that open your heart and lift your energy. You also have the chance to have conversation with visionary leaders who are walking their own path of alignment and healing transmissions that flow directly through the hollow bone. So, whether you're listening live or catching the replay, every episode is an opportunity for you to receive guidance, expand your awareness, and align more fully with the miracles that are waiting for you. Now, today on our show, we are so honored to have this wonderful guest by the name of Zen Benefiel. And Zen is the author of more than 40 books, including Navigating Holistic Growth, The Servant Leader's Guide. He hosts One World in a New World, which is an international conversational series on leadership and transformation. And he's also the founder of PlanetaryCitizens.net, which is a practical framework for the cultivating cooperative intelligence across sectors. I mean, Zen, welcome. Let's start there. What can we say?
Catch and namaste. And for those of your viewers who don't know what those two phrases mean, in la catch comes from Mayan. It means I am another you. And namaste means the divine in me recognizes the divine in you.
Absolutely. And thank you so much.
Well, you're welcome.
Now, one of the reasons for you being here, um, let's start there anyway, is you have a chapter in the new book that's coming out in the best-selling Mission Hope series. And this book is called Every Heart Holds a Miracle. And you were kind enough to share that with me before publication, which actually happens tomorrow, for only 99 cents for the ebook tomorrow for everybody who wants to catch that book. But when I read your chapter, it's such a beautiful autobiography of your miraculous life. And I wondered if you wanted to start there as we talk and then just kind of let things organically unfold.
Oh, sure. My life didn't begin with certainty at all. It began with adoption. I was orphaned at birth.
Yeah.
And shortly thereafter, about 4.5 years, my adoptive sister came home. And
Ooh.
my parents decided it was time for me to know what adoption was. Hadn't even, didn't consider it, of course, right? Didn't know any better. Um, and I had the initial questions of why, who my biological parents were, right? Who my real parents were, and all that kind of stuff. But it didn't really bother me because I experienced unconditional love where I was at. I had freedom, I had love, I was nurtured. Um, and I've got a picture of holding my sister and kissing her on the cheek when she first arrived, right? Um, what it left me with, though, was the question of if now I had been going to Sunday school briefly, right?
Mhm.
And my parents were involved with the United Methodist Church at the time. But I had the residing question of if I have a father and mother in heaven, can I talk to them? Now, for 4.5-year-old to be thinking,
That's quite
right?
as,
Um,
yes.
and it was just at the time, it was a flippant thought, I thought. And then a few weeks, maybe a month later, I'm standing on the landing of our home stairway, elbows in the windowsill, chin on my hands, looking out the window in the evening. It was after dark, and porch light was on. Main Street was about 50 feet in front of me, small town, so there wasn't that much traffic. And all of a sudden, I hear this deep male voice simply say, "Hey, you." And rather than engage it, I spun around immediately to ask mom, who was sitting at the bottom of the stairs watching TV, and it wasn't from the TV. It reverberated my entire being. But I said to her, Mom, did you hear that voice? And she says, No, what voice? And you can imagine a 4-year old or 4.5-year old trying to speak in a deep voice, right? And I said, That voice. It says, Hey, you. And she says, No, I didn't hear it. It must have been a peeping Tom.
Oh dear.
And supposedly, I found out later our town had one. Um, and yet, I knew at that point, undeniable that that was there. So it took a little while. Dad worked third shift. He was a tool and die maker for Generous Motors, and mom was a school teacher. She'd be taking, or dad would take his nap between 8:30 and 9:30. Mom would be in the kitchen. My sister would be asleep. I would stand in front of the living room window, lights on, and project the voice out into the darkness, hoping for a return.
Oh,
And of course, a little kid's got, well, the neuroscientists say we got 70,000 thoughts a day running through our head. So it's hard to shut up and listen, right? So there was a moment one night where I finally shut up inside and it returned. And so I began developing a conversation with it. And, I don't approach it often. However, when I have concerns and quandaries, I do. And it's this eloquent, wise, impeccably integrous voice that responds.
wow.
And so I had that up to, well, I've had it all my life still. Um, but it came as a teenager. I was in a pre-med program in Ball State or at Ball State University in Muncie, Indiana. And I grew up just west of there. And I was distraught. I came back in between first and second quarter, and I hit my knees and I prayed to know what truth was. And I was willing to die for it if necessary. And I was just in a mess, right? Internally. Nobody else knew but me. And so I prayed. And then that was on Saturday night. The following Tuesday, 11/11, 1975, way before 11/11 became popular, right?
Right.
And I came back from class and did the obligatory bong hit and album side meditation. I'm not embarrassed to say that. It was the 70s, right?
Right.
And living in the honors dorm, most of us were heads because it was just the thing to do.
Right.
So I'm listening to Journey's first album, laying across my bed, and in between the vocals and the vamp on the second song called In the Morning Day, this voice asked me by name. My given name was Bruce. It says, Bruce, are you willing to die for what you believe in? And of course, right away, I'm like, oh, what? Christ consciousness. Immediately, it felt a little empty. I wasn't sure why. I didn't question it because I just trusted the feeling. And I went to the next thought, which was cosmic consciousness, thinking, okay, this is what Jesus actually had, right? And it felt full. So I said yes. And of course, you know how the universe synchronizes things. There was a guitar riff on the album side that sounded like a rocket ship taking off. Simultaneously, there was a tug from my solar plexus. So I pop out a body. I turn to look at my body laying across my dorm room bed, turn back to look where I'm going, and I'm immediately engulfed by white light before I can even get turned around completely. And it had this most, I mean, exquisite sensation, right? It was effervescent, high pitched, and iridescent.
Wow.
And as I began realizing, oh, I'm thinking because I'm analyzing, right? So I'm thinking, I can't be dead. Woohoo! Impetuous teenager then spouts out, right? Wow, is there more?
Oh dear.
And right, so I feel this slight movement, and I'm in an indigo background now with points of light surrounding me. And I know these points of light are points of consciousness, whether in body or not. I'm not sure because I know I'm not. I have the sense that they are somehow. And at that moment, then the voice picks back up and says, this just blew me away then, still does today, and I'm sure it will you. These are those that you are to work with in order to facilitate a new world order. It will happen in your lifetime. Know this to be true. Your path will be full of trials and tribulations. Understatement. Have faith and trust that everything you need will be there at its appointed time. Trust and allow. And then I feel this rush of energy. I'm back in my body, taking a gulp of air, kept my eyes closed, still listening to the music. And I instantly knew that we're all cosmic consciousness condensed into form, just unaware. So what do you do with that,
Especially
right?
as a 19-year-old, you know?
Well, I was 18 at the time.
18.
19, I got institutionalized because I kept talking about it.
Oh, jeez.
And that didn't work very well. And I realized about halfway through my stint, was 3 weeks in, the doc wanted me to tell him what he wanted to hear instead of listening to me and trying to help me figure out me, right? And unfortunately, the previous year, of course, I told my parents, and they sent me to a psychiatrist. And after 3 visits, he said, "You know, you're not crazy. You've had a spiritual awakening. You've got all the signs. Why so young? I have no clue. Most people don't go through it till their mid 40s, if they ever do. My advice, keep your mouth shut. People aren't going to understand you." Right. Well, so the next round was quite interesting. I got labeled all kinds of stuff: manic depressive, paranoid, schizophrenic. Put on 2,000 micrograms of Thorazine a day. Should have been a lump in a corner. Was up playing ping pong, beating the male nurses, and they couldn't figure me out. And it wasn't until the night before, and 3 weeks in, the night before my weekly visit with the shrink, I was sitting at the table reading the Bible, and it must have been around midnight. And there was a black woman sitting with me who was reading a book on Wicca. And we got into this conversation, and it was just phenomenal. I loved it. And shortly into it, she looks at me and says, "You know, I feel like you need a blessing. Would you mind if I give you one?" And I'm like, "Well, sure." I'm thinking I could use all the help I can get in here, right? And so she gets up and goes into her room, comes back with a vial of oil, dabs some on her fingertip, makes a cross on my forehead, does a prayer, and then we move on, right? Well, the following morning, instead of my desire to want him to listen to me, I told him what he wanted to hear. And all of a sudden, it was a miracle cure. He told my parents that he didn't think I was ever going to come out of it. So here, I'm being viewed through at that time a DSM-4, which was put together by the pharmaceuticals that says, okay, here's the science, here's the diagnosis, and here's what you prescribe. Horrible.
Horrible.
And so I made it out, shook like a leaf on the inside when people started asking me questions after I got out because I was afraid of going back in, right? I shook so bad sometimes that my actual body trembled. It was so embarrassing.
It was so horrible.
And yet, it's like, okay, what do I could do with this? Because I was gregarious growing up. I was star athlete, star academician. Um, did a trampling act in front of 5,000 people at a circus halftime presentation in a basketball game, that kind of stuff. Everybody knew me. Mom was a school teacher, right? And so this was just not me. And so it took me a while to figure out, okay, what do I need to do? I joined the JC, started speaking in public. Um, I had a couple sets of drums that I bought in college that I started playing again and started playing in a band. And so I got my confidence back.
Ah,
And it took a couple of years, probably.
not bad.
Um, and then I still had trouble with it because unless you have a direct experience that's similar or at least close to enough, or you had enough thought experience, the experiments going on in your head to wonder what that might be like, I'm going to sound like an idiot, right? I feel like Shakespeare's, right? Um, a tale told by an idiot full of sound and fury signifying nothing. And yet there is that sense of nothing that comes along with it that you get comfortable with after a while, and being able to just be free of how people think and feel about what you're saying.
That was a different time too, you know? I mean, you were way ahead of your time to talk about that.
Oh yeah, my parents, and it was beautiful because I could go any place, do anything, have all kinds of fun, be mischievous, and still not get in trouble, right? Because my parents were pretty close with the town um, purveyors, I guess. The assistant chief of police, his son was one of my best friends, and I played in the band with later with his youngest son. Um, so there were privileges in that, um, be that as it may. Might have been better had I suffered some consequences. I might have learned something a little earlier, but it was still fun growing up. And my parents didn't tell me how intelligent I was till I was in my 30s. I had an IQ test in grade school, like we all did back
Yeah,
then.
yeah.
And they were afraid to tell me because they thought it would go to my head and I'd
Oh,
become this, egomaniac. But I didn't understand why things came so easy when everybody else struggled.
right. So that's the beginning.
Yeah,
And that's
what a beginning, huh? Talk about trials and tribulations. Wow.
right, right. And so you were given some directives, you know, as part of your awakening.
Oh yeah, the New World Order to me then was helping to facilitate harmony among people and planet. That's how I understood it to be,
Yeah,
based in love.
yeah,
Moreover, based in trust more than
yeah.
love. We say fear and love are the opposites. No, I disagree with that. Fear and trust are the opposites.
Interesting.
Love is where you come to when you transcend them.
Like that. And so, where did that lead you?
Oh, all over the place. I've had like 13 different careers. Started in uh, as a meat cutter, and then I got involved in machining, and then played in a band. So I had three jobs, um, and raising a family. I had one child, got married, um, and then the auto industry crashed in 1978. So by 81, it trickled down to our community, and there were virtually no jobs available. I was working part-time as a meat cutter and machinist, and had jobs with the band, but in 3 days' time, all three fell through.
Oh,
Uh,
interesting.
the jobs disappeared because there was just not the income for the stores to support it. And then the lead singer for a band, the chief of police's son at that time, was dating, I don't know if you remember the Gaither Trio. They're an internationally known gospel band where their headquarters were in our small town.
Oh my gosh.
And Danny Gaither, there was Danny and Bill Gaither were brothers, and Gloria Gaither was Bill's wife, and the three of them were this
Yeah.
vocal trio.
Yep.
Beautiful music.
Yeah.
Well, Danny's son, Nick, played bass for us, and Danny had been going through a divorce because he'd split from the group and was doing his own thing. And our lead singer was dating his daughter. And he saw what the divorce was doing and said, I don't know if I can do this or not. And so he backed away. And so that was the third, right, on the third day. And I'm like, oh man, come on. So the following morning, I walk out on the porch, I look up at the sun, I throw my hands up, and I said out loud, okay, I'm listening. Where do you want me to go? I heard Phoenix, clear as a bell.
Oh my goodness.
So, it was kind of like Stephen Wright and the door opening up and tumbleweed falling out. That wasn't included, but still, right? And when that voice spoke, in, without question, on this. And so 3 weeks later, we sold everything, packed up what we could, and we were on our way to Phoenix.
Wow. And so was that kind of a challenge for you? I mean, you know, you don't
Not at
know where
all.
you're going exactly. You don't have a
Uh,
place to live.
no, we had some friends that moved to Phoenix, one a year prior and one 2 years prior. And I called them up, said, hey, we're headed that way. Any help you can give us? And one of them said, "Yeah, we can give you a place and I can get you a job too." So my
Perfect.
first, right. So we arrived, and my first job there was cutting contact lenses on a pneumatic lathe.
Oh my gosh.
And it just began from there. A few months later, I was working for a major aerospace firm called Air Research at the time. I was a production grinder specialist holding millions of an inch tolerances on aircraft gears that went into turbine engines. I loved it.
I bet.
Then one night, I'm setting up a job. I work second shift. So one night I'm setting up a job, and there's little lathwood platforms that are in front of all the machines that we stood on. And I've got my head in the machine, and I feel somebody step on my platform. And I turn around to look, and there's nobody there. And I hear, pick up a pencil and paper and draw. Like, okay. So I have a pencil in my work smock, and I pulled a 4x6 index card out of my toolbox, and I put my put the pencil to the paper, and I just watched myself draw. And I drew this symbol that was a hexagram with two eyes of Horus above it, triple six in the top, sign for Cancer in the left, um, two-edged sword in the right, the scales in the lower left, yin and yang in the lower right, triple nine in the bottom, with a cross and a swastika superimposed on it in the center.
Good heavens.
Again, what do you do with that?
Right? So what
So
did you do?
1981, there was nobody to talk to. My wife wasn't, this kind of stuff scared her,
Yeah.
honestly.
Yeah.
I think that was eventually the cause of our divorce, but we lasted almost 10 years, four kids. I've got nine great grandkids now.
Wow.
Unfortunately,
Congratulations.
thank you. And unfortunately, I don't have much of a relationship with them because
Oh.
of the turmoil that was involved. And they're 2,000 miles away. She moved back to
Hmm.
Indiana.
Hmm.
Um, and to our small town. And I was glad that she was deciding to do that because my parents lived there and I knew
Hmm.
the kids would at least be looked after somewhat. And I didn't trust the Phoenix area
Yeah.
or her at the time.
Yeah. Right. Right. Oh my goodness. So what did you do with that then? Did you meditate on it? Did you ask some more or what?
On Did I meditate on the symbol?
Yes.
Oh yeah, you know, I knew initially it was my soul symbol. And it
Ah.
contained everything that was necessary in order to bring everything together. And I found out the two eyes of Horus meant total protection. The triple six, of course, is the carbon atom that makes us, that's who we are. That's the number of man. Sign for Cancer, that's me. And two-edged sword was the word, right? You can destroy or create. Uh, Scales, right? Balance, yin and yang, the male, female, it's not negative or positive, although when you're looking at vortexes, they're different sensations.
Yep.
One's agitated, one's a little calming.
Yep.
Triple nine is the perfected form, fit, and function of the triple six, which has the Trinity added to it. The cross, we know what that is. And then the swastika, um, the direction was it was spinning to the left there. Now, there's two directions that it can go. One represents the condensation of matter or vibration into matter. There's really no matter, it's just the condensation of the vibratory rates, right? And then, or lowering. And then the other direction is the expansion of it.
Well, it's really, the swastika is really more of an ancient symbol from Tibet,
Mhm.
isn't it? Yeah.
Oh, it's one of the most ancient there is. Originally, I believe it was the sun worship symbol.
Hmm.
Um, but it's throughout many. I mean, you can see it in the caverns and the caves and all the things from ancient times. And then we tend to focus on what happened with it in the 40s, and that's like
Sure.
that much of the time frame, right?
Right. So did you make like a flag out of this, or did you make a wall hanging? Or, I mean,
No,
that's your
for many
symbol.
years I didn't do anything with it. My drawing was so crude, it looked like crap. I wasn't right. Drums are a different story. As in my artistry, right? I'm impeccable with timing and flares and fills and things like that. However, I can't draw worth a shit. Um, Drafting, a different story, right? I got tools to work with. However, I suppose maybe a decade or so, but probably even longer than that, I used a graphic tool to refine it. Um, and then most recently, I did some research with AI to ask it what it felt like those were. And wow, deeper than I ever imagined, still confirming what I thought about to begin with. And it's,
Wow.
it's kind of an accompanying symbol for me. Keeps me
Yes.
on my toes, keeps me
Yeah.
directed. It was funny, one of the loaders, the guys that bring the jobs to the machines for that aerospace company I was working at, this was in 1981. He brings a job one day and he sees my name tag and he says, "Oh, Benefiel, huh? Good and faithful." I'm like, "What?" He says,
Oh,
"Yeah, that's what your name means." So then I got interested in etymologies, right, of names and started researching it. And, when you get, I'm constantly distracted by curiosity and radically sometimes, or radical curiosity at times. I got to know stuff. If somebody says something, it's like, oh, I need to know more. So I research it, right? But it made a huge difference. What a name to be given. And then Zen came so much later. After my divorce and leaving the corporate world, I got an opportunity to host a TV show. And I'd been given the name Zendor through a meditation. Well, it wasn't really meditation. A friend of mine and I were having a conversation. This was post-divorce. Um, well, actually, just pre-divorce. He was living in the guest house because I knew I'd be living in it soon, but I was helping him out.
yeah.
But we went to a full moon meditation, and then we were having a deep conversation. Must have been 1, 2 o'clock in the morning. And it felt quiet. And I closed my eyes and went inside and I asked the question, who am I? Because I still didn't know, right? I had no inklings about my biological parents. And as I asked the question, I heard his chair move. And I opened my eyes to turn to look at him, locked on his eyes. And the very first thing he said was, "You are Zendor." And I'm like, wait a minute, I didn't say shit, right? How could you hear that? Why would you be answering this? Come on, guys, what really? And so um, I had a vision at the same time, seeing a starscape, a huge stone arched doorway, and a thick wooden door slowly opening towards me. And I hear door to what is. And again, it's like, oh, come on, really? And so I told him what I experienced, and he was hip to it. And then I put it on the shelf. I didn't talk to anybody until I was producing and hosting the TV show, and I used Zendor as a subheading because I was inquiring of others what prompted them to do what they're doing from both inner and outer perspectives, what fears they encountered, how they overcame them, how they saw that fitting into the common human experience around them, how they saw that affecting communities and what evidence they could see to a global community forming or emerging at that time. And of course, I had all these questions myself. I wanted to, having just gone through a horrific portion of my life, rejection by my wife, rejection from corporate world, and rejection from church.
Yeah.
Uh, so I'm like, okay, what do I do? How do I handle this? How do I navigate all these things and still be true to me?
Right.
And so I was asking others how they did it to see if my notions fit with theirs and if there was some congruence in
Yeah.
it all. So I was looking for patterns, right,
Yeah.
that were recognizable that then could be shared with others. And we did about 120 some odd shows. I had 200 guests. I started with one, then switched to two so I could talk to two people from different backgrounds and figure out if they were saying the same thing differently.
Wow.
And most oftentimes they were. And so then it was okay, I see this, do you guys see this too?
Mhm.
Right? And getting that kind of corroboration so that we could reach agreement and that
What was
place of recognizing, yeah, we're all saying the same thing differently.
what was the name of that show?
It was called One World,
That's what I thought you were saying.
right?
And that's not
And
still going on?
well, in a new version, right? 30 years later, my wife comes to me. Now I'm remarried to my twin flame, who is from Leningrad, Russia, initially, or USSR at that time.
Yeah.
And she was a trained as a piano pedagogue in their educational system, just phenomenal.
Oh,
I met her at her Kundalini yoga teacher training graduation.
oh my
So a
gosh.
very high vibe person, right? And perfect for me. Challenges me, questions me, makes me better in every moment, um, even when I hate it, right? So, um, best friend you could have, right?
Yeah,
So
absolutely.
she comes to me in April of 2021, post just at the end of COVID, and she says, you need to start talking to people again. You're brilliant. You got stuff to say. People love you. I give you permission.
Oh,
So in June, we launched One World in a New World
uh-huh.
with a similar theme. Only 30 years later, I got a little more wisdom, maybe just a bit, better questions. And I wanted to focus on the inner conversations that we have with ourselves that we don't share with others because it's important to do so. And
Mhm.
it's how we bridge the inner and outer worlds. And most of us are afraid to do that because it seems so weird and we're often rejected out of hand for doing so. And now with this, then we've got the opportunity. I talk to people all over the world, all kinds of different professions, and they do reveal how they first got in touch with this notion of interconnectedness and what it was like for them and how they took that through their personal and professional careers and made use of that, which is what we need to do. We're bereft of having those kinds of conversations. And the inner world manages the outer world. The inner world is what gives us our perspective, which manages the outer world, which is our perception and how we receive things. So we are constantly in this reciprocal, tesseract, if you will. We project our perspective and then we receive our perception.
You must have gotten so much validation from that.
Yeah, it's still lonely, right? Because there are so few up until COVID, right? COVID woke a lot of people up. It gave us the opportunity to self-examine, self-hygiene, right? Turns inward, behavior modification. And the sequestration prolonged it so that we had the opportunity to do self-examine and figure out who we are, what we believe in, what we're willing to do, how we want to live, what makes sense and what doesn't, and then what we want to do about that.
Yeah.
And so that has shifted a lot of things. And then AI came along and just gave it steroids.
What's your feeling about AI?
I love it.
Yeah.
I think the fears are unfounded for the most part. It's
Hmm.
only going to do what we tell it to.
Yeah. It's a
AI is not artificial. It's an amalgamated conscious or intelligence because it's a collection or aggregated. It's a collection of all our history, right? All the information that humans have put out. Now, true or false, right? This is why it says, hey, we don't know everything because right, we can make mistakes. Make sure you check, right?
yeah,
Rather than
right.
just completely trust us, which is the evidence of love, by the way. It's not the opposite of fear, as I said before. It's trust. And so it's just been phenomenal for me. I built an agent. I call it Citizen, and I loaded it with ancient texts, modern physics, and a few of my books. And I used it to build out planetarycitizens.net in 2024 after we got our nonprofit status in late 23. It had been a website just showcasing world servers from I think 20, I think I might have got the domain in 2010 or 2012. Um, so it had had another form for all those years. And then I got the tap on the shoulder to move it forward and to pick up Donald Key's work, which is, he was the founder of the original Planetary Citizens in the 70s. He was U Thant's Secretary General of the UN. He was his speechwriter.
Oh,
And he had the idea that, we needed a borderless world in order to be unified.
mhm.
Didn't
Quite,
fly in the 70s. We were still in the Cold War.
yeah, I know. I was going to say he was quite ahead of his time there.
Oh, and we
Mhm.
all are, right? And
Yes,
yet
yes.
things evolve and emerge because we're persistent. I love the five P's. It's patience, persistence, perseverance, passion, and purpose. Well, you got to practice them. So there's a sixth, right? And that's where the discipline comes in,
Mhm.
because it is one of the most disciplined paths I think that there is, because you've got to constantly monitor yourself,
Mhm.
not judge yourself. There's a
Right,
difference, right?
right.
Of those 70,000 thoughts I mentioned earlier, how many of those are self-deprecating, you think?
Oh, a lot.
Right.
Yeah.
So a miracle occurs when you start examining, recognizing, and changing
Yes.
what you're thinking.
Hmm.
But that really takes a lot to do, right? And so meditation is the beginning of that. It helps you be still, to just listen to yourself, right?
Yeah.
And then you can begin to say, oh, well, that makes sense, or oh, that's kind of foolish, or why the hell do I do that? Right?
Whose idea was this?
Exactly. And then occasionally you'll have that tertiary element that comes of the wise one
Yeah,
that comes through and gives you a God drop, so to speak.
I like that. Yeah.
It's really phenomenal. And it just keeps you in a state of awe
Hmm.
when you live in it.
It's true.
Not totally, because we are human, right? We're spiritual beings having a human experience. We experience being human, right? We've got the whole span of emotions that we have, right? To deny any of them is foolish. To
Yeah.
learn how to embrace them so that we're just okay with them in the moment, because everything's temporary and transitory, right? It's all a process. It's just recognizing that it is a process and that this too shall pass, right?
Oh my goodness gracious. So let's talk some more about planetarycitizens.net. Is
I'd
it?
love to. Thank you for asking.
Yeah.
Um, it's my dream to reality process. And if I may digress for just a little bit, when I was in the aerospace industry, I grew to where I was responsible for $7 million a month in shipments, 800 part numbers, commercial spares. And
Goodness.
during that, I saw how people treated each other in the workplace, and they were beating each other up to get the job done. It just didn't make sense. And because of my behavior, I sailed to the top of the production charts, and two supervisors came to ask me what I did or what I was doing, right? And it was just how I treated people. So I had the bright idea of, again, I can't say I had the bright idea. It was something that occurred to me one day out of nowhere, to create a business name, Be the Dream, and register it with the intention of bridging spiritual and business best practices.
Ooh, I have shivers on that one.
So here we are, almost 50 years later, right? 40 years later anyway, and I'm closer. Um, I've been doing this for a while, but that led to the inner work and helping others do that.
Mhm.
And then my own dream, I figured, so I started as a transformational coach. I think I put the website up in 2004, and knew that, okay, if I'm going to be a coach, then I have to live what I share with others.
Mhm. Yeah.
And otherwise I'm worthless, right?
Right.
So the process began, and Planetary Citizens came up. I didn't even know it was available. I got a tap on the shoulder to pull the name. It looked to see if the domain was available. It was, and the .net was, so I got it and did the web stuff, and fortunately had the skill set to do so. And then in 23, got the tap on the shoulder to turn it into a nonprofit, got it, rebuilt a website with the help of Citizen in 2024. And the mission is to use all of these tools and techniques to bridge, um, to demonstrate how a holistic model can be created using existing models. One being spiral dynamics, which is a scalable um, view of how societies behave. The other is the co-creation wheel. Now, Claire Graves developed the spiral dynamics initially, and then Barbara Marx Hubbard, with the help of spiral dynamics, developed the co-creation wheel, which has 12 sectors that breaks down society into this holistic picture in the particular segments. Well, whenever we start dividing things up, right, there's natural silos that occur, let alone the ones that are already there, because most companies are alpha males at the head of a pyramid rather that are competing with each other rather than cooperating and collaborating. And that's been our history in the industrial age. So now we got to shift because we can no longer do that. Well, how do we do that? What are some tools that are available? What are some models that might fit? And so as I was exploring things internally with AI and which is kind of internally too, right? When you
Yep,
kind of think
for
about it
sure.
because of its vast information base. And the model evolved. And so I broke the sectors down into the individual areas, who's doing what individuals can do in each, what groups can do, what communities can do, who are the pioneers. Uh, and then also I ran into using or started using this new term called recursive function. Now, for those of you who don't know what that means, it's a system, this came out of computers, right? It's a system that queries itself for problem solving. So this is at the core of every large language model, which are what all these AI bots are. I'm not even sure if I use the correct term as a bot. Um, so using that, gives us the ability using the recursive function. I query each of those sectors with recursive function questions and statements that get us to eliminate our attachments to each and look in the unknown for exploring that inner, right? Because we do the same thing. You know, the old phrase, go into your closet and pray. That's the recursive function. So using that, we developed some um, questions and perspectives, and then the community side of it just evolved recently, where I've got I don't know 60 or 70 alliance organizations that I've found that I've got logos up as evidence of alignment in our missions. And now the second phase of taking our podcast to the next level is having panel discussions with people in each of those, or two or three at least, sectors, and looking at what's working, what's not working, what they see, what they want to contribute, um, those kinds of things. Similar questions, right? Because they've still been led there from internal perspectives, right? With the skill set and the capability um, that people have, right? We've all got this inner capability that we have. Even the Vedas, 15,000-year-old Sanskrit poems, right? They say we're all divine threads incarnate, connected source, capable of God consciousness. Well, what's that mean? We're capable of understanding ourselves perfectly because we have a direct connect to the infinite intelligence that is specific to each of us. We just got to learn how to ask the right questions to unveil it. Hence the apocalypse.
Okay, so I've got a million questions going through, but
I'm
let me
sure,
start
right?
with Okay, let me start with
I
how
still
do
do too, right? I got
yeah,
questions popping in my head as I'm talking about
I bet.
it.
Well, that's how it works, right? That's
Yeah.
the recurring, yeah. So the companies that have formed an alliance with you, did they find you or
Well, we
did you
haven't
find
formed.
them?
These are just ones
Okay.
that I believe can. So this is a
Oh,
process. Again, you got to identify, and then the next phase is the outreach.
yeah.
Hey, we've got your logo backlinked. Do you appreciate that? Would you consider doing the same? We've got an area that I created for cross-pollination, for people to begin sharing who they are, what they do, their organizations, and then that community area is searchable
Hmm.
so that people can find each other.
Hmm.
That's just starting. There's very few people there. The whole
I can
concept
imagine.
is something that is just immense to not just put structure to implement.
Hmm. Hmm. Yeah, because there's no end.
No,
Yeah,
life ends,
yeah, yeah,
right?
yeah.
We're
But
evolving. We've
consciousness,
had
yeah.
thousands of years of history as a planetary civilization. Now we're looking at, especially with what the military has revealed over the last few years, that yes, visitors from space are real,
Hmm. Hmm.
right? They're watching. They've been on the moon for millions of years, from what I understand, and from legends that have been shared, and even a conversation I had with Dr. Edgar Mitchell, who was the sixth man on the moon. I befriended him at an event that I was producing, and we had multiple conversations over the green room time. Um, and eventually he says to me, I want to share something with you, but you got to promise not to tell anybody till after I'm dead.
That's a heavy burden.
Ooh.
Yeah,
And I was tremendously humbled with
yeah,
his trust.
yeah,
And so he says, and I'm good for the word, right?
yeah.
This is 1997. He says to me, when we disconnected from the command module, he was the pilot for the lunar excursion module. And he said, when we disconnected from the command module, there was a metallic silver cylinder spiraling around us all the way down to the surface. I couldn't tell how big it was because he had little perspective, right? Didn't know if it was piloted on board or from the surface. I did know it was nothing from Earth.
Whew. That kind of
Then a
been.
decade later, I heard through the grapevine that Buzz and Neil had seen similar objects standing upright on a platform just beyond the dark side of the moon, right? And today, with the high-powered telescopes, I've seen videos that you can see craft flying across the surface of the moon, right? So what do we do, right? They have been there for a long time. They can encourage, but they can't interfere, right? And they won't until we learn to get along because there's no one central source. We've got to unify as a planet before we can join the universal family.
Yeah.
And that's what they're encouraging us to do, which goes back to Donald Keyes, A Borderless Planet, so that we all have effective mechanisms to care for each other and the planet.
Hmm. And don't you think that um, transcendence into that unification is really the whole big picture of why this planet is here in this 3D model that it is? That our role is to move beyond that, to
Uh,
really
Oh,
choose to.
absolutely.
Yeah,
It may not be the end goal, however, it is part of the process.
yeah,
Absolutely.
yeah,
And it stems from learning how to love and be loved,
yeah,
right? To
yep.
that's
And to
that's
love
the core.
ourselves. Yes. Uh-huh.
That's the inner,
Yep, yep,
right? Then
yep,
when you're able to love the inner you
yep,
completely,
yep.
without exception, right? That's the unconditional. That's where that the Hindus call it the Shabda, which is in English is means sound current.
Hmm.
And it's that same high pitched, effervescent, iridescent frequency that I was introduced to in the white light.
Mhm.
That's what it is. That's who we
Mhm.
are. We
Mhm.
each have one of that point of light within us that vibrates at that frequency.
Mhm.
And quantum physics is kind of proving that now,
Phew.
which more makes more people listen, right?
Yes.
And curious. And so now you see all these posts on the internet about AI and quantum physics and consciousness and how it's all interrelated. And it got me to even sharing what I figured out years ago, that hydrogen is possibly the conduit for consciousness because it's got that missing tertiary leg that all the other elements have. The
Oh,
electron. I'm sorry, the neutron, because
neutral.
the proton just excuse me, the hydrogen atom just has the proton and the electron.
Uh-huh.
Well, hydrogen is the most plentiful gas in the universe, powers our sun, and is the bonding agent for a DNA helix.
Mm,
So if consciousness, where's the first place it's going to flow through in order to make us who we are? It's going to flow through our DNA.
yeah, yeah.
So this is like way out there.
Well, I'm hanging in there with you.
It makes sense,
It
right? That's
does
the
make
whole
sense.
thing. When you begin
Yeah,
uncovering knowledge and it makes sense,
yeah.
Occam's razor applies. It's
Mm.
probably true.
Oh my goodness. Where do you
And I'm
think you
just a guy
can?
that likes to have fun, right? I just want to play music and love my wife and have fun and enjoy other people and help them be who they are to achieve their dreams.
Yeah. Well, I mean, that's a simplified version, but you're here to make a big difference in the world. And that
I
was awesome.
aspire to, yeah.
Mhm, mhm.
I hope don't that I don't have my ego wrapped up in it because it's all
No.
about we go, right? Um,
I haven't sensed that your ego is wrapped up in it all.
well,
You're here.
sometimes probably seems like it because I can be a stubborn son of a bitch.
Well, so can I. When it's about what we passionately believe in, yes, absolutely.
Well, it's more of what we passionately know to be true for us from our direct experience.
That's
That's
a
the
good
only
one.
truth that we can fully carry and trust.
Mm. Oh, Zen, you're amazing. So we just have a couple minutes left. So tell me, like, what's your favorite book that you've written? You've written 49 plus books, right? What's your favorite?
Well, I have to say, my first one took me 10 years to write. It was over 1,000 pages. It was originally called Zendor the Contrarian.
I love it.
Right. Subtitle was A Seminal View of Consciousness, Cosmology, and the Congruence of Science and Spirituality. Now, 10 years later, I edited it because I wanted to make it available in hard copy through Amazon, which meant it needed to be 500 pages.
Oh,
So I did. And the title change kind of honors Tom Campbell in a way. It's Stubbing My Toe on Purpose. Toe meaning theory of everything. And the on purpose has a double entendre. You're failing forward, right? You're purposely stubbing your toe and testing things, willing to be wrong. And the other part is that you're searching for purpose, right? Throughout it all. And again, it's still the same subtitle, Seminal View of Consciousness, Cosmology, and the Congruence of Science and Spirituality. Now, what it precipitated was a 28-year dream come true. In that, in 1990, when I first started One World, I wanted to emulate Jeffrey Mishlove and Bill Moyers as my interview style, hoping someday to be worthy of an interview with one of them. In June of 2018, Jeffrey reaches out through another website I was managing at the time called Ufology Press. And the only method I had to communicate was a feature called Snake Pipe. It was a plugin. It basically is a voicemail service that you from your website, right?
Uh-huh.
So I get a um, voicemail message from him. I recognize his voice right away. My heart starts pitter-pattering, right? And he says, hey, this is Jeffrey Mishlove of New Thinking Aloud. I just interviewed Jason Giorgiani about the Grays, and I think your audience would enjoy the interview. Would you please take a look and maybe help promote it?" And so I did, wrote an article, posted it, sent him the link along with a PDF copy of my book, and without asking anything. And he sends back an email 3 days later. Would you like to come talk about it?
Oh, wow.
So in August, Luba and I went up to Albuquerque, spent the weekend with him, his wife and stepson, did 3 interviews. The first one was A New World Order. The second one was The Sociology of Ufology. And the third was On Hearing Voices.
Perfect.
Took
Um,
me into the stratosphere of credibility for myself.
Absolutely. Helped to erase some of the negativity that you had
Oh,
taken.
the imposter syndrome. It left
Yes.
for a little while.
Yes. Yes. I hear you. I hear you. Oh my gosh. Zen, you are absolutely amazing. I've so enjoyed talking with you today. And just for our
Well, thanks for the
listeners,
opportunity, Phoenix.
oh, listen, we got to have you back again.
I love it. I
There's so
love it.
much more to talk about. And you left a whole lot left in your autobiography, part of the Every Heart Holds a Miracle book. So, for people that want to know even more about you, there's a whole lot of gaps that you fill
Oh
in
yeah,
there.
there is. And
Yeah,
the title of it, I think, as I recall, is A Miraculous Through Line.
I think that's right. Yes.
So
So,
by all
yay.
means, check out
Yeah.
the book. I'm not the only one in it. There's
I know, it's so
others.
exciting. It's filled with miracles and it gives
Absolutely.
people hope that they can also have a miracle, right?
Hey, if I can do it, anybody can. That's how I feel.
Absolutely. That's how I feel too. Come on, it's available for all of us.
Yeah. Yeah. And how can I help you?
Right,
That's the
right.
thing. That's how we need to
Yes.
show up, right?
Yes,
How can
it
I
is.
help you? Not
Yes.
what can I get from you? How can I help you?
Right, right. Ah, this has been so wonderful, and thank you so very much. And I hope that our listeners come back next week. We'll be, let's see, let me see right here. I have Sarah Polyakov, who's going to be joining us, and she is also an author in the book Every Heart Has a Miracle, Holds a Miracle. So I'm looking forward to hearing from her too. So
I
thank you
wonder
so
if instead of
much.
holding it, maybe we need to let it go.
I know. I was kind of like, I didn't think that was the
We need
word
to share it,
originally.
right?
I thought it was every art has a miracle, not holds a miracle. But somewhere along the line, it got changed, I guess. So
It's all right. We're still
whatever.
sharing what we find to be valuable for others.
That's right. And thank you for that.
Oh, you're welcome.
And thank you, listeners, both those that are live and those on the replay and on the YouTube channel. So we thank you for being here and we welcome your comments and your support. So namaste, everyone. See you next time.